to the Point of Impact podcast with Rick McDaniel. Thanks for joining us today. Get ready to be inspired and motivated to live a high-impact life. Now, here's Rick.
Welcome to the Point of Impact podcast. I'm Rick McDaniel. It's great to have you joining with us again today as we continue talking about comebacks. And today we're going to talk about career comebacks, how to have a comeback in your career or job. And before we jump into that, let me just say a couple things. One is Thanksgiving will be coming up next week. And so I just want to wish all of you a happy Thanksgiving. I've talked in previous episodes about gratitude, particularly how it's tied to happiness, to being a happy person and to having happiness in your life. You can go back and listen to that episode. And actually twice I've talked about it. So it's great, really. Thanksgiving is great to focus us on gratitude and being thankful for our blessings. And I hope that it won't just be, a family holiday, although that's great. Our youngest son is coming with his girlfriend. That's going to be really nice to have them here. And it's great to be with family. And it's, great to watch football, the Patriots and Giants, my two teams on. Never before has that happened on Thanksgiving, so that is going to be great, and all the marvelous food, all good stuff. But at the end of the day, Thanksgiving is about being thankful and having gratitude, and I hope that you will practice that. It'll make you a happier person in many, 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 many ways. So happy Thanksgiving. The other thing is, when we get to this time of year, we know that Christmas is really just around the corner, and we're thinking about, what are different gifts that we can get for people that we love. And in these inflationary, challenging economic times, it's maybe even a little more important than normal to try to find affordable gifts. And I just want to encourage you that a great gift would be my book, This Is Living. It's $18 if it's regular priced, and sometimes it goes like on Amazon. They'll put it even for a lower price than that, but that's less than $20. And if you get free shipping, it's a great deal. And you can give someone something that has 100 readings in it. So they've got, someone says, "Oh, I'm not a reader," but it's not that kind of a book that you read in that way. Just read one each day, or each time, whatever it might be. And that maybe takes about 3 minutes, but you do that 100 times and you've read an entire book. So it's a great book to give people, to just give them some inspiration and some encouragement. And again, it's for all kinds of readers, not just the folks that consider themselves readers. This is Living Daily Inspiration to Live Your Faith. You can get it on Amazon. So I would just encourage you to pick that up, or pick multiple copies up and give it to different folks for gifts. It's an inexpensive, beautiful hardcover. It's got color on the inside as well. It's a really nice looking book. It'll just be a nice gift, affordable, but most importantly, it will really be something I think people come back to you and say, "Man, thanks for giving me that. I read that one today, and it really gave me a good boost for the day." So you can look for that as you think about your Christmas shopping. All right, let's just jump in today, because there's a lot to talk about when we talk about career comebacks. You lose your job. Hey, that's a significant setback. You miss out on a promotion. Get passed over for a raise. These are setbacks that can happen. Your job, your career, it's hugely significant, because obviously it provides for your needs. I mean, you need it in terms of having the money that we talked about in the episode on financial comebacks. But it also gives you a sense of purpose. So losing a job and losing out on a promotion, not getting a raise, these are significant things. Now, losing a job can result from different reasons. You can be laid off or downsized or fired. The loss of your job could be entirely your fault. It could be partly your fault. It might not be your fault at all. But in the end, you've lost your livelihood. You need a career comeback. The biggest chunk of your time each day is spent working. So this is a really, really, really big deal, is to be able to have a career comeback, to be able to be happy, satisfied, successful, whatever you want to call it, in the work that you do. Work is, it's important. Losing your job is a big emotional blow. The loss of purpose, the loss of routine, the loss of income. I mean, this is huge. And of course, many times it's the loss of friends, because many of our closest friendships are made at work. So we no longer have the job, we lose the friendships as well. And like all setbacks, it can take some time to recover, from the blow, from the hit that you take. And you really can't begin until you regain some emotional footing. But once that happens, your goal should be, I'm going to be so indispensable that I'll never lose a job. I'll never miss out on a promotion. I'll never get passed over for a raise. I mean, it's just not going to happen to me, because I'm the person that, if anyone's going to get the promotion, it's going to be me. If anyone's going to get the raise, it's going to be me. If anyone's not going to get laid off when we're downsizing, it's going to be me. I mean, that's what I want to help you in this episode, is to just really become indispensable in your job, so that you can avoid setbacks in your career in the future and have a marvelous career comeback. I think it all starts with a commitment to hard work, to just realizing that is a part of any success in work. Is, you've got to be willing to work at it. Proverbs 12:24 says, work hard, you'll be a leader. Be lazy, you'll end up a slave. I mean, that's about as blunt as it can be. And then in verse 27 says, anyone too lazy to cook will starve, but a hard worker is a valuable treasure. 93 CEOs were asked about what makes someone a successful leader, and they identified all kinds of qualities: vision, character, people skills. But there was only one quality that every single one of the CEOs agreed on. Imagine that, only one. They talked about many different ones, like I mentioned, and many other qualities that go into success, but they all said hard work is crucial. It's the one factor that's universal. And you don't have to look far. You look in somebody like Michael Jordan, considered by many the greatest basketball player that ever lived, and what's legendary is his work ethic. In the offseason, Wayne Gretzky, considered the greatest hockey player of all time, known for how hard he would practice. Jerry Rice, the greatest wide receiver ever to play professional football, is workouts emulated by other players because they were so hard and difficult. I mean, the best didn't just have great talent, they had an incredible work ethic as well. You may know Malcolm Gladwell has written many bestseller books, and in one of them, Outliers, he talks about the 10,000-hour rule. Maybe you've heard of it, claiming that the key to achieving world-class expertise in any skill is a matter of practicing it the correct way for a total of 10,000 hours. And he references Anders Ericsson, who's the guy who came up with this initially, and that greatness requires an enormous amount of work, and talks about how the Beatles performed in Germany 1,200 times over a 4-year period, amassing over 10,000 hours of playing time in Germany. Did you know that? Not just in England. And that's where they gained their proficiency. About how Bill Gates gained access to a high school computer and at the age of 13 spent 10,000 hours programming on it. So you want to become the most famous rock band of all time, and you want to become one of the most celebrated entrepreneurs, businessmen, and wealthiest men in the world, and at one time the most wealthiest man. Guess what? It's not an overnight sensation. And anytime you hear overnight sensation, almost inevitably the people who will say, overnight sensation, I've been working for years. You just found out about me, but I've been doing it for a long time. So the hard work, you got to put it in. And of course, it comes down to self-discipline. You got to discipline yourself to do the work. And it'll always be easier to binge watch the latest TV show, than to get up and do the work. It'll be more enticing to talk on the phone and go out. It'll be more fun to surf the web and just waste hours. I mean, these things will never change. There'll always be, in fact, the only thing that will change is there'll be more, VR will take place, and you'll just have more and more reasons to goof off, fool around, sleep in, than to put into work. But if you're going to have a comeback, then you're going to have to put in the work, and then you'll see the results that come from it. Too many view hard work as sort of extra work, but when you work hard, you really set yourself apart. And this is where you safeguard yourself from future career setbacks. The difference in your work gets noticed, and that gives you influence in a position of leadership and impact on other people. And it comes from good old-fashioned hard work. There's just no way around it. Disciplining yourself to do what needs to be done. It just makes you a valuable part of any company, team, organization, group. If you work hard, you're going to find that you're wanted always. You will consistently find people will want you because they know that you'll put in the work. So it's just a crucial part of what it means to have a career comeback, is to just not make excuses, demonstrate initiative, and follow through with it. There's just no way around it that anyone has ever come up with. You can have a great idea, but make that idea into reality is a whole nother process. And there's always going to be a place on a team for someone who's willing to put in the work. There'll always be a place in a company. There'll always be a place in any organization for a hardworking person. Zig Ziglar used to say the elevator to success is out of order, but the stairs are always open. Yeah, man. I mean, come on. It's easier to take the elevator always, but the elevator may be broke. The stairs are not. So set yourself apart with a work ethic and just see what that can do for you in terms of just straight up being willing to work harder. The other aspect, and I've spoken and written on this before, I always like to talk about it, is a commitment to excellence. This is the other way to guarantee a career comeback, is to commit to excellence. Sorry about that. Should have put it on pause before I cleared my throat. I love this phrase, excellence honors God and inspires people. I believe in it. I believe that it honors God, and it's definitely inspiration to people. God wants us to excel. And if you will commit to excellence, you can go places in this world. I'll never forget reading about the story of a plane crash back in 2006 in the Amazon rainforest in Brazil. It was a Boeing 737 commercial airliner and an executive jet. And when they got the proverbial black box out of the executive jet, what they discovered was the air traffic controllers had told the pilots in the executive jet and the pilots in the Boeing 737 to fly at the same altitude. It was also discovered that the executive jet's transponder was off 54 minutes before the time of the crash, the crew only turning it on 3 minutes before the accident. Footage of the radar screens at the time revealed the primary radar lost contact with the jet 28 minutes after the transponder was off. The air traffic controller's lack of professional excellence, putting them on the same altitude, combined with the executive jet's pilot's failure to fly excellently and with the transponder on, caused 154 people to die. I mean, that's kind of as stark as it gets, as horrible as it could be of what can happen when there's a lack of excellence. But listen, friends, there's all kinds of unnecessary problems that are created by a lack of excellence. I mean, it's just incredible how it impacts your life in so many ways and can result in, again, so many potential career setbacks because of it. I remember we bought a computer one time for the office, and came time to install it. Turns out the hard drive was defective. I mean, you take a computer out of a box that's supposed to work. How can something that drives the computer get shipped out of a factory and not work? And then, of course, all the wasted time back and forth to the store to get it all fixed and get it right. So whatever job you do, or whoever you work for, whatever your profession it is, ultimately, you've got to have an excellent standard. And an excellent standard, working excellently, is going to keep you from almost all career setbacks. I mean, it could still happen, it could still happen. The whole company could go under and, you're out of a job. And I mean, it's possible, things can happen, like what happened with the lockdown and all that. But even then, if you have excellence, you're going to find your way faster to your comeback, because living a life of excellence just enhances your life and certainly your career. So how do you do it? What are some of the ways in which, and it's just, hey, be excellent. Well, what does that look like? All right, here we go. I'm going to rattle off some for you today in the rest of this episode. One is high standards. Unless you value excellence, you'll never be excellent. If you don't put a value on it, and you can quantify it, then you can't define it, and then you don't know if you're reaching it. If you're going to achieve excellence, there has to be a standard. We know companies, organizations, teams whose standard is excellence, and time again, they hit the mark. They do so because they have clear standards. They know what excellent looks like. Apple's a great example of consistent excellence in a company. There's just no doubt. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, I used to talk about this for years. They've turned around a little bit, but the Raiders, now the Las Vegas Raiders, back when they were Oakland Raiders, had their motto was commitment to excellence. And that was really something, because from 2003 to 2014, they won only 56 games and lost 136 games. They averaged over 11 losses a year for 12 seasons. I mean, you can't be worse than that. So to have a motto up for 12 years, commitment to excellence, and be the absolute opposite of that, I mean, that is just, come on. If you're going to set a standard, you have to actually live up to that standard. Average is acceptable in our culture in many ways. Mediocre, good enough to get by. But that is not the way you have a career comeback. God doesn't put you on this earth for your one and only life to strive to be average. You want to be excellent. And if you follow Christ, I mean, you've got to serve an excellent God, then you ought to have an excellent life and exhibit that excellence in everything that you do. And the standards have a way of quantifying what success and excellence looks like. And when you point to them and understand what they are, then you are a person who is excellent and whose work is excellent, and that will be rewarded. Another principle is working with enthusiasm. People who are excellent at what they do have enthusiasm. That's it. I mean, enthusiastic people. You should be enthusiastic. And you need to understand, this is vitally important. People are always impacted by enthusiasm. I'm a huge believer in enthusiasm and effort. And effort, of course, has much to do with enthusiasm. I mean, it's enthusiasm that fuels effort. There's an enthusiasm quotient, and that depends on the person, the situation, and the circumstances. But what is most defining of excellence is what happens. Is that then translated into effort? Effort is something all of us control. Just think about that. There's a lot of things we can't control. We can always control our effort. No one can stop you from being enthusiastic. You can stop yourself. Many people do, but no one can stop you from being enthusiastic. I mean, you can have circumstances that are discouraging. You can be around people that make life challenging, but ultimately it comes down to you. That you would, work with all your heart. If you're a student, your job is, to be excellent in your studies. That's it. You have to put in the work. What does it look like? What does effort look like for a student? It means, I'm going to have a good, enthusiastic attitude, even if it's in a subject, English, math, whatever that I don't necessarily like. And even when you get to college, it takes a long time. Take it from a guy who's got 3 degrees. It takes a long time to get to a point in your studies where you finally get to focus in on the stuff that you're really interested in. I mean, it's like a funnel, and it starts out wide and then eventually it gets more narrow. So for a good amount of and that's college I'm talking about, let alone your high school education. So it takes a long time, to really get to get to the, to the point where I'm really interested in all the stuff I'm studying. What's effort look like, in the home? Maybe you're a homemaker. What does it look like? I mean, who do you answer to? You're running the house, and you can sit down and watch TV if you want, let everything go by the wayside, park the kids in front of the television as well, or you can show effort and have enthusiasm and make the home the absolutely best place that it could possibly be. Ultimately, we're all accountable. We're all accountable for what we do with our time. But when you have enthusiasm, it's contagious. People see it. And when that fuels your effort, it's going to get noticed. Here's another principle. Pay attention to details. Now you may say, well, I'm not a detail-oriented person by personality, so I'm exempted from this. But that's not that's not what this is about. I'm a big picture visionary leader. I mean, that I've started a number of different organizations you got to have a big vision for that. But you have to be able to pay attention to details. You've got to be able to do that. I love the story about when Walt Disney was producing, this famous movie Snow White that's still around today. The illustrator spent 240 days on a 4.5-minute segment in which Snow White was playing with the dwarfs while they were making soup and they were just making a big mess in the kitchen. Walt Disney liked the scene. He thought it was funny. But as the project went on, he determined that it just didn't fit with the flow of the picture. So he cut it. 240 days of animation work down the tubes. Disney's decided if the film was going to work, the flow had to be perfect, and he had to choose between what was good and what was excellent. Ultimately, he chose what he thought was best, and Snow White is considered one of the greatest animated films of all time, and even to this day, right, is still shown. Attention to detail. I mean, there's many things that are acceptable and even good. There are far less that are great and excellent. And the difference between acceptable and great, between good and excellent, is the details. If you follow car racing, particularly, let's say NASCAR, you know that many times, the difference between winning and losing is details. There could be a half a pound of pressure in the tires. It could be 1 second longer spent in the pits could be the difference between winning and losing. I mean, that's just 1 second, half a pound. I mean, these are small details. There are all kinds of little adjustments that can be made on a race car. And just some of the just small details can determine who's winning and who's not. Millions and millions of dollars poured into professional racing, and the little details are determining the difference. Teams hire engineers, spend all day, every day, all week, trying to figure out how to make the cars a little faster. Attention to detail. Here's another one. Deal positively with change. If you're going to be excellent, you have to be able to deal with change, because change is a constant in life. You can like it or not like it, but I'll tell you what, friends, it's not going to matter. It's going to keep happening. It's easy to get negative under the pressures of unrealistic demands and changing expectations. I mean, you can do it. Many people do. Get negative about the job. And of course, again, that's how you can lose a job or miss out on a promotion or not get the raise. Or you can have a can-do attitude and you positively handle change. Bosses change, coworkers change, technology changes. You got to deal with it. There's really two ways to deal with change. Psychologists tell us you can be a benefit seeker or a consequence avoider. 85% of Americans are consequence avoiders rather than benefit seekers. In other words, they change because they have to, because it's forced on them, begrudgingly, without a good attitude. Maybe that's the reason you would experience a career setback, is you didn't welcome change at your job. Comeback happens when you're a benefit seeker. Benefit seekers are people who look at the benefits that change can bring. They try to identify the positives in any change and choose to focus on the benefits rather than the perceived negative consequences. They welcome change with the right kind of attitude and mindset. I'm telling you, friends, it makes all the difference in the world. I was talking with the president of a company about the workplace and change and attitude and just the attitude that people have, and how he said to me, I just really want people to have a change-friendly attitude. That's what I want, the people working in my company. And there it is from the president of a company. All right, how about one more? Love to talk about this stuff, man. Excellence, so important. Do more than is expected. Jesus said, if someone asks you to walk a mile, walk another mile. This is where, you've heard the phrase go an extra mile. Now you know where it comes from. It comes from Jesus. Here's what I can tell you about the extra mile. There's no traffic jam on the extra mile. Far too few ever travel the extra mile. This is such a key to excellence and success in your career. Do more than is expected. Anyone can do the minimum. Anyone can do just what has to be done. The people who excel are people who go beyond what is expected. When you do more than is expected, you move into new territory. And friends, in that new territory, a lot of good things happen. You get into the extra mile territory, you get into the creative world. And the world of creativity is where so much takes place that ends up being a benefit and a blessing in your life. It's amazing what can happen. I was at a dinner party, met some people, and we were just talking about the creative process and the creative energy that happens when you get into a workplace where people are willing to go the extra mile. I mean, if you've had a setback or, if you're kind of bored, why don't you try going the extra mile? Try going into new territory you haven't been in before and see if that doesn't spark something inside of you that can create greater excellence. Here's what I know for certain. You commit to hard work and you commit to excellence, you are going to have a career comeback. You are going to be successful. You are not going to be the one when it comes time to choose who stays and who goes. You're not going to be the one to go. When it comes time to decide who should get the promotion, you're going to be the person. You're not going to be passed over. When it's time for a raise, you're going to be the first person. You put these principles into practice. You practice them over time in your job and in your career, and you're going to end up having a great deal of success, and you will avoid the career setbacks, and you will have a marvelous career comeback, and you can have a great career that's fulfilling, that takes care of your needs financially, and that gives you a real sense of fulfillment and purpose in life. I hope you'll do it. Have a great holiday again. I'll see you next week.
You've been listening to the Point of Impact podcast with Rick McDaniel. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to you joining us for our next episode.